G'day folks, Greasy John here. Now the Aussie Offsider were banging on my door this morning wanting to make a tractor video for you all, so I thought, why not do one on the little pacemaker? Now at first glance this might just seem like an ordinary pacemaker, but it's not. This is an Orchard pacemaker built for 1 year in 1936, only about 120 built. Now as I say, might just look like an ordinary pacemaker, but there's a few subtle differences, and I'll show you them now, and then I'll go into what it's taken to get this tractor running again.
I said in 3. Go.
The first thing you'll notice is the front axle on this tractor is set much further back than the standard pacemaker. This is to enable the tractor to make tight turns between rows of trees.
Well, where's your standard axle?
The standard pacemaker axle would sit about level with the radiator here. This also gives the tractor a bit of a nose down appearance. Another small difference is this air intake. This only has a short air intake, almost level with the top of the bonnet, and this is to enable it not to get snagged in branches and damage any fruit that you're growing at the time. Now, ordinarily a pacemaker would have a Wallace type manifold on it, but this has at some point had a standard manifold put on it, whether that be due to the manifold rotting out or it's what they had at the time when it was put together over here. I don't know about that. But
maybe they weren't so keen on going ahead.
Well, this is true. Maybe they have a bit of basic OH&S. Now as we move further back through the tractor, you'll notice one of the things is it's very similar to the Wallace tractor, with the fuel tank, U-frame construction, radiator type, and this was because this design was based on the Wallace design from 1915. They kept it right up until 1939. A good strong design. So as we move further back through the tractor, one thing you will notice is that the steering wheel is very low. On a pacemaker this would sit up quite high and you'd sit a lot higher in the driving position, and this was done to keep the driver clear of low hanging branches and other such obstructions when he's working in his orchards. So as we move around the back of the tractor, I'll show you a couple of more obvious differences now between this and a standard pacemaker. The first thing you'll notice is it's got very low driver's platform. Usually a pacemaker driver's platform would be level with the join between the two halves of the diff here. And the seat itself would be on a spring like on the Wallace tractor, mounted higher up, with the steering box being much higher. The next thing you'll see, we've got a hand clutch as before with the Wallace, but we've also got 2 independent foot brakes.
Oh, we're getting fancy.
Indeed, we've actually got brakes. And this is to enable us, at least that way, to lock a wheel when turning between rows and give us that tight turn that we want when we're working out in the paddock. Again, the similarities between this and the Wallace are quite evident with the twin fuel tanks, one for water, one for petrol for starting, although now we've got 2 extra gears with a 3rd and 4th gear.
I've got to say that gear stick looks like a bit of a bugger to be reaching forward and changing.
No, it's not too bad. My daughter drives this one. So you can see it's fairly similar to the Wallace, fairly similar to an ordinary pacemaker, but again fairly different at the same time.
And they thought the market only wanted 120 of them.
Yeah, they didn't build very many of them. They only built them for 1 year. And halfway between that year, they changed them over to the style type pacemaker, which is the same engine, but with more rounded, more Massey like styling on them. And they painted them red.
And
although,
what kind of score are we giving it for modern tractor design for 36? Because it all looks pretty 10 years ago to me for that time.
It's still got a lot of the design features of the Wallace tractor, and I think Massey Harris went with the idea of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So they stuck with the design, but it worked. And remember, these were being built during a depression too. And Massey Harris has tried something radical with the four-wheel drive GP, and it didn't sell.
What are the flaps on the inside of the mudguards for?
They're just shielding to prevent branches and things like that getting tangled up in the design. Now, one thing that this Pacemaker doesn't have, which you will see on a lot of them, is they tend to have extended mudguards, and they will have big sheets that come down and cover the wheels down to about here. Just again to keep those branches off of the wheels, and some of them will even have great big curved, almost like fenders, which will run down forwards off the mudguards. Again,
like the MM.
Yeah, like a bit like a Minneapolis Moline UDLX, but purely just to push those branches out of anything they could get entangled in.
Are the rubber tyres stock? What did they come with? Cleats?
I'm not entirely sure whether it come on rubber from factory, because this is a very old-fashioned type of tread pattern.
These aren't Australian made.
I couldn't tell you that, unfortunately. I couldn't tell you.
A lot of Australian tractors have Australian made, or a lot of tractors in Australia
have Australian made tyres on them. But I'm not sure as to whether they are factory or it would have originally had steel wheels on the back. If I find a set of front steel, so I have to do a fair bit of work to get this tractor running. When I took it on, it was in the, I took it to a couple of shows, but I was parking it up in the shed one day. I switched it off, and all of a sudden water just started flowing out the back of the exhaust manifold. So I pulled the head off and I could find no evidence of cracking, bad head gasket or anything like that. Anyway, after a while, getting it back together, I put water in it and was going to fire it up, and I could hear water running somewhere. And I couldn't find it, but it was absolutely pouring down into the sun.
Not exactly what you want to hear.
No, it wasn't. So I pulled the head back off and checking all the surfaces and checking the surface of the block, and I just happened to have a torch on the right angle, and I saw that in the threads of where number 3 spark plug goes in, there was a bloody great big hole right into the water jacket, and that is where the water was getting in. Fortunately, my good friend Mr. Richard Jackson had a pacemaker head, which he gave to me, and a new set of valves, and I rebuilt the tractor now, and it runs good. It runs good. It still weeps a bit of coolant. I can't completely get it sealed, but for the amount of work this tractor is going to do, I'm not too bothered by that. And it only leaks when it sits. It's fine when it's running. So all I do is, before I start it up, I'll open the very lowest oil drain on the motor, drain the egg cup, half an egg cup full of water out, and then drive it.
Not bad for an 80-year-old machine.
Not bad for an 8-year-old machine, no. So that being said, I've got some petrol in it. We'll see if she'll go. So, check she's out of gear as always. Give her a couple of notches on the throttle. Turn the petrol on. Give her maybe a swing on choke. She's a bit lighter than the Wallace and a bit safer too. No crank handle flying off at you.
I'm still standing back here. foliage clearing technology. Orchard tractor.
There you go.
I reckon that's the easiest starting tractor we've had on this show so far.
I don't know, you want to try swinging it. There you go. Not bad for an 8-year-old tractor.
I commented how you got onto those branches all right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, now unusually, I think we ought to get the Aussie offsider just to take it for a little run. See what he thinks. There he is. Aussie offsider. Pacemaker. Give it a bit of throttle. Now you gotta pull it hard, but don't worry about that. Just switch her off. You see that by turning the kettle off. See the original decals. That was a good couple of days, wasn't it? I'm wondering whether I should re-spray this one properly. I think I should. Well, there's our first job, I reckon. There you go. She's just run out of petrol there.
They can't have been that many hundreds of pounds of petrol in them, they're pretty economical.
The 82 is the best one. That went from the shed up the hill where we drink tea and all that, out to the paddock, put the cold mode on the back of it, did a lap and a half of the paddock with the petrol turned off. Yeah, just on what was in the line through the carburetor. We'll talk about the 82 another day. That's another interesting little tractor.
Are you sure you've done the fuel line on?
Yeah, she'll die in a second. Here, Chrissy.
So there you have it.
There you go. Massey Orchard Pacemaker. One thing I didn't show you, I'll just show you quickly, was this little dot design. That is this cap that screws from here. And there's your engine oil dipstick. That's just to keep the dust out. The offsider just made me show it that. You like that?
Well, it's a cute little design. Look at that. That's nice. That is. That's nice.
That's nice.
That's one for the landowner girl.